Good evening. The new headquarters of the Secretariat of the Pacific Islands Development Forum was officially opened today by Prime Minister Voreqe Bainimarama. Government provided just over $1 million for the refurbishment of the old colonial residence, which recently housed the Fijian government's audiovisual unit. This is an outcome of the discussions held by leaders at the inaugural Pacific Islands Development Forum held in Nadi last year.
A new era of regional cooperation has begun. The Pacific Island Development Forum is a grand coalition of 13 Pacific governments, civil society organizations and business, all working together to enhance the cause of Pacific people everywhere, one that the Fijian government says is much more inclusive than that of any existing structure.
We would like to see it as the preeminent regional grouping for one simple reason, that for the first time, we have an organization that gives voice to the aspirations of all Pacific Islanders, and not just the elites. One that is closer to the grassroots because it reflects the views of all sections of Pacific society, governments, civil society groups, and business. It is not a question of prestige or establishing yet another talkfest. It is about creating an organization that is more attuned to our development needs as Pacific countries. It is about creating an organization that is relatively free of interference from outsiders.
Bainimarama says Fiji is convinced that the Pacific Island Forum is inadequate.
We don't see the PIDF as a competitor for the existing Pacific Islands Forum. It is not a question of governments having to choose between the two. But Fiji no longer believes that the Pacific Islands Forum, in its existing form, adequately serves the interests of all Pacific Islanders. We also believe that the forum has become overly bureaucratic. Moreover, the fact that membership of the Pacific Islands Forum is confined to governments means that the agendas and priorities of important segments of Pacific societies have been ignored.
The Fijian government has made its stand clear on considerations of rejoining the Pacific Island Forum.
For its part, Fiji wants a fundamental realignment of the Pacific Islands Forum before it considers rejoining that organization. But in the meantime, we see our future firmly implanted in the PIDF. And we are encouraging all Pacific countries and territories, along with their civil society groups and business leaders, to join us.
Leaders of the 13 Pacific member countries are expected to gather in Nadi again for the second Pacific Islands Development Forum in 2 months' time. Sofia Koroitano, Fiji One News.